Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
My name is Belal.
I'm Nazima.
We're the Healthy Muslims. Welcome to the Healthy Muslim Show. Inshallah, today we're going to be talking about
How to be healthy after Ramadan.
Eid is a day of celebration. So inshallah, you had all the desserts and sugar and fried food you could possibly take in. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't feel guilty about eating unhealthy on Eid. It is a day of celebration. Inshallah, you all had a great time. Problem is, you probably also did that throughout Ramadan. And so, inshallah, we're here to help you get past that.
Yes, and if you gained a bit of weight during Ramadan, it is a great time to try and lose some of that weight.
Yeah. The group, despite the fact that most people probably ate hundreds of fried items,
Record numbers.
in Ramadan and desserts and everything else, your body is still used to you going long periods of time without food, which is great. And the reason why is because it becomes easier for you to be able to say no. In Ramadan, it just shows the level of iman that everybody has, is that it doesn't matter what's put in front of you. No one can make you break your fast. And that in itself, alhamdulillah, is a massive blessing. So we want to try to take that and be able to then start something like intermittent fasting, which can play a huge part. Remember, intermittent fasting itself isn't just going to magically make you lose weight. What you're doing is you're giving yourself a smaller window to eat, which helps you lower your calories, which then helps you lose weight. So one thing that's really important is intermittent fasting can help you, inshallah, on your goals.
Yeah, so with this, these coming weeks and not even months, I would say more so coming weeks, you might not have as much of an appetite. And that's because we've been used to fasting for the month. And so you can make use of this and add in an intermittent fasting schedule. So what that would look like is, rather than waking up and having your breakfast first, you can have your first meal around 12 to 1 o'clock. Now, the key with this is you're not replacing it with snacking on random things, right? That's a big mistake people make, but I find it's quite helpful. Normally, I don't function really well with intermittent fasting, but post-Ramadan is a really great time for me to do that. So I will do my first meal around 12 to 1. Only for about a month or so. I find a month later, I am starting to feel hungry for breakfast, so I'll add that in. So it's really important to, really make changes based on how you feel and use a more personalized approach so that, you feel better. And that's the key with losing weight. There's not a cookie cutter approach. Not everyone needs to go on the same diet, and you don't have to give up everything.
Yeah, and that's really important, is that you have to figure out what works for you. Now, like I was saying, because you're used to going long periods of time without eating, it's a good time to be able to then transition into intermittent fasting. But again, it doesn't, like Nazima was saying, it doesn't mean that you have to stay there and then that's all you can do, right? But finding something that works for you, and then having periodically, like, different seasons as well, right? So certain times you're doing intermittent fasting, certain times you're not. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just making sure that you're being mindful of understanding that, you have to figure out what works for you, and what works for you might not work for others, right? So we can be in we can be in the same household but have different approaches, right? Like, I love a big breakfast, but after Ramadan I actually do the same thing, where around 12, 1, 2 o'clock is when I start having my first meal. But the hard part for me is I have a higher protein intake than she does. So with me, in order for me to hit my protein, it's easier if I start earlier in the day eating, as opposed to starting later in the day. So that's one thing that's really important, is that how to make it easier for me to hit my protein intake, I do need to spread my food out a little bit more.
Yeah. You mentioned like us being in the same household, but having different goals. I think one thing that's super important is we can still have family friendly meals, right? We're not like making separate meals where I have my container, you have your own container, especially when like kids come into the picture. And so that's when a lot of the times when people think of healthy, it's like this like very restrictive, I have to make my own food. I have to think about the rest of the family and I have my own separate meals. And that is honestly probably like the worst way to go about it, because you're not likely to do this long term, right? Using these extreme approaches don't work. So generally I find, and with a lot of our members, it's like that dinner is that family friendly meal. So that's the same case with us, right? We want to get a family friendly meal on the table. And believe it or not, we have white rice at home, right? That's like probably the biggest. I remember
every day.
So actually I remember when we got married, and I was also a new dietitian, and I would make brown rice every single day.
Sacrilegious.
Yes. So I would make brown rice with our food because I'm a dietitian and we need to eat brown rice. And then I remember one day you're like, I never want to eat brown rice again. Don't ever bring brown rice. And so since then, we always have white rice, right? Now,
And there's also a lot more research about that's obviously come out over the years
yes,
regarding that as well. But yeah, there's nothing unhealthy about white rice. There's nothing unhealthy about bread, right?
right.
Um, Serving size is what matters,
Yes.
right?
So
So like
like
we
that
eat rice,
mountain, but not
yeah.
the mountain
Like
of
when you
white
think about
rice.
like a traditional dish, what is it, right? It's like mountains of rice, right? Like like I've had trainers reach out to me. They're like, "Hey, man, I have a client who can't seem to lose weight." He's like, "Oh, okay." But like, oh, he's they'll be like, "Oh, he's Pakistani or he's from generally from a Muslim country," and they'll be, I'm like, "Oh, so like he just has like rice and some veggies and some meat." I don't understand. I'm like, "Hold on, hold on, hold on. Where is he from?" And then you dig deeper and understand. I go, "Hold on. If he's just saying rice, that means it's like few small little pieces of meat, mountains of rice, which is probably going back for seconds, and his veggies is probably like iceberg lettuce and
Or
maybe a
minimal or
cucumber or if that,
overcooked.
or
Way too
overcooked,
much oil or
right?
overcooked. Yeah.
So it's important to understand portion is what matters the most. But again, throughout Ramadan, you're used to saying no. So take advantage of the ability to be able to say no, and then use that after Ramadan as well.
Yeah. So one thing, and so the reason why brown rice is a good like starter is because you can't eat a lot of it, right? So you can really just eat a small portion. Whereas white rice, you could eat like plates and plates of it and you just don't feel
I'm still
full.
never gonna eat brown rice.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
good
not.
on it.
No, but what I'm saying is you get a sense of what the actual portion is. So with white rice, if you are having white rice, the key is the portion size, right? And so something that we still do is instead of using a serving spoon, we use like the baking measuring cup, and we scoop out a cup. Now, the first time you do that, it feels like very little rice. And if you do it in a social setting, the one cup, like people are alarmed, right? They're like, this is very little. But if you actually look at a full plate of rice, that's anywhere from 4 to 5 cups of rice. Like it's way too much. And so the first time, the next common thing is like, how am I going to feel full, right? And that's with increasing the protein and increasing the veggies, right? How are you feeling after that meal? That is a key that people often miss. You should not feel like you need to take a nap. Like you should not feel tired. You should feel energized. And when we have our members that like start first, they're like, oh, I'm gonna feel hungry, and then they're like, wait, this is the first time in my life like I don't feel like I
Yeah.
need to take a nap
When you have a
after some meal.
balanced plate,
Yeah.
you're a sufficient amount of the right amount of protein, right amount of carbs, right amount of veggies, like you notice a huge difference in how much better you feel. And we get that all the time. People are like, "Man, I ate and I just feel sleepy and I feel tired." Like you get those mid-afternoon lulls where they're just like, "Oh, I'm just like," well, yeah, it's what we're putting into our body. So it's really, really important that if you really want to maximize your time, especially now post Ramadan, if you really want to, when it comes to your workouts, when it comes to everything else, then nutrition is going to be first and foremost, and making sure you have the right nutrients in you for you to be able to then output the right amount of energy that you need.
Yeah, a common misconception I find people have is that they think it's easy for us because they're like, "Oh, you guys are just healthy. Like this
Yeah,
is
we're
just."
still parents. We got
Yeah,
3 kids. We
we have
still have
3
family. We
kids.
still have everything else. We still have to battle through the same stuff.
Exactly. And so, like a lot of the challenge that we've experienced, like we totally get it. And in fact, I find becoming parents, me going through, 3 pregnancies, like that has allowed me to become a better dietitian. I find even with you, it's like, hey, you're not going to spend hours in the gym. You're not going to tell anyone to do that. And so it's not extreme. And I find one thing that's really important to us is like teaching our kids about our culture. And so like the cultural food, right? So we have rice.
Like my food has to be spicy,
Yeah.
like super spicy.
I don't know if the kids love the spice all the time.
They're a lot more Western
Yeah,
Canadian than I am. Yeah.
but like our food does not look like broccoli and like chicken. Like, it's cultural. And I find that's the key. It's like you don't have to give up your culture in order to eat healthy, in order to feel good, in order to see those results. It doesn't have to be either or. If you give up these things, I find sooner or later it's going to come back. Like you're going to add it back and then you won't see the results that you're hoping for.
Yeah. So same thing when it comes to your workouts. The mistake people make is thinking they have to do everything and all of it all at once. The goal should be 3 times a week, right? 45 minutes, that's less than 3 hours. 168 hours in a week, that's less than 3 hours. Break it up throughout the week. So you Monday, Thursday, Saturday, etc. Right? 45 minutes each, right? If you can make it, but first off, create a schedule, right? Don't just leave it to chance. Don't be like, all right, I'm just gonna work on Monday. No, I'm working on Monday at 4 p.m. Like, know exactly what it is. One thing I always say is don't miss a Monday workout. The reason why I always say that is because then you got 6 days to then complete 2 workouts. That's massive, right? Like, when you have that mindset, but if you skip your Monday workout, you're like, "Oh, I still got 3 workouts left. I have 6 days left." You miss another one. You start on Wednesday, your first workout, "Oh, I got 5 days to complete 3." Like, mentally, it starts to have an impact. So, you have to prepare mentally going into the workout. And then from there, have a program in place. Reach out to us if you need a program. Have something in place, and the importance of it isn't just so that way you see results, because you're going to see results if you have a proper program in place, right? But also mentally, it's you stop stressing, right? You know, for example, if you meal prep, you don't have to think about what you're going to be eating that night, right? If you're going into, you come back from work and you're tired, now you're having to cook, what's the easiest thing to do? Just
Just
Uber eat
order.
the food, right?
Ordering food,
And then
yes.
what is it gonna be? It's never gonna be something healthy, right? Even places that consider themselves healthy aren't the healthiest things. And same thing with the workouts. When you walk in, you should know how many sets, what exercises, how many reps per exercise. You should know what are you working on that day. It should already be written down, so that way you're having to make less decisions. You don't need decision fatigue. When it comes to nutrition, when it comes to your fitness, you wanna make as least amount of decisions. You should already have those decisions made, so that way you can just jump into it and then go. The biggest reason why people fall off when it comes to nutrition and their fitness is because they're trying to wing it and they're trying to take on too much, right? So simplify it. Have a plan in place. Have your meals prepped. Have your workouts programmed for the month after. Have it all planned. Schedule out your workouts so you know exactly what day, what time, location. If you're going to the gym, know what gym it is, right? But if you're just going to leave it a chance, oh, today I got to work out. Well, no, what time, right? It's not a workout day, it's a workout time, right? It's like, "Oh, today's a workout day." What does that mean? You're not working out 24 hours on a Monday, you're working out at a specific time. So pick the exact time that's gonna work for you. And the one thing, please don't ask, what is the best time to work out? Because there is no such thing. It's because if I tell you if it's 2 p.m., but you're at work at 2 p.m., are you not gonna work out then? No, find the time that's gonna work for you. Whatever time that may be, find that time and then stick with it.
Yeah, and I think using that post-Ramadan energy because you were, used to fasting for long hours. So now it's like when you add in food,
Morning
it's like you
coffee.
yes, coffee as well. You have that energy. So this is a great time to add in fitness and we're going into the summer. So there'll be more opportunities to get active outdoors as well so that it's more enjoyable. We did want to make it more simple for all of you to lose weight and really see your potential without giving up your culture. So download our free guide in the description, 3 ways to lose weight without giving up your culture.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.